that perfectly steamed seafood on your plate is a lie. It is a blood-soaked luxury paid for in severed fingers, toxic plagues, and underwater mass murder. We are exposing a terrifying, hidden oceanic apocalypse, and it will change how you look at your dinner forever. Ban de bao geo dung truok bien trong mot dem toi troi, na tiang song gam rit va tu hoi and sao dui lop nuok den gom kia tuk su dang and chua Thursday gi chua. Chung ta van thuong tu yun go ban and bang and hung thuok phim tai lu tho mong, noi and hung ong laun go dan rao top dmbac, the sam dv nong geo, dung tren chik thuyen go kok catch nem tung te loi soang mat bien lap lan on ben min. Queen D. Du chi la motd vang de chet, motao on lang man doak thu det de che jiao di su that ton nan va kok lit dang dien ra tung ga tung foot. De net dates I tu lan na ban, de 8 tights I mean tren han tin nai kong ka exilon now vi con doi, nan loi dang tien han motqok vo vet 6 mo, mot chien dike diet song engip hoa thien nin voi su mau lan den ron nuoi. Dai jung kong con lami thien nin bao dung, no de bien ton emotikomai san zut thit kong lo, noi tung gram protein by vat kiet bang and hung thuet ton va rong rock thep. At Mluvuong 04 men chow qui 6 va kak ban de buk veo the gioi tran trui nai. Nguyen hung su that ron gop sap toi de keen ban cam thay by loi quan, on va kong the dut ra doak, hey nan nai nut dang ky ken. Dap nat nut like va bat chuang thong bao de teep them gon lua cho chung tua lat ta and hung gok quat ton kok not qua the gioi tu ban. Bai geo, hey chuan by tin then, vdm den dao tien qua chung ta kong fi la mot chien ra koi Thursday john, ma la mot kuok han quan dam mui bao tap niguai koi han quak. Dung goi dam ko mai dang ke nat mat song kia la tau dan ka. Du dike ti la mot hem doi quan su doak sin areda. Hui diet va tuak dot. Ban non, kin niam nin me don geo quan gudan yu. En hung Thursday lang man vien vong du da by vut bo tu lao, they the bang su lan lung tuet doi qua du lu. Di dao ham doi la en hung con ke vat trin sat mang tren min he thong radar va song em de tang toi tan not. And hung con mat tu tin dam shuyen dao hung tram met dui long bien sao. Dai jung by lot tran, kong mot dan ka Thursday now kotha and now. Du lu tu long vuk tam doak ban tang v mon hin trung tom, fan tich chi li den tung millimet v mat du, kich tuak va qui dao qua sin mem. Va kai toa du tu than doak chat ha, vong ve thep bat dao sit lai. Hung kilomet loi doak the soang. Det ton mot buk tuong jiam cam kong the shuyen thung dui long noak lan jia. Kung kan luk du chong kok now mot kuok tam sat cam lang. Hung tru sin lin dang boi loi trong bong toi ruk ro qua chung, chua kip hua doak kainim qua su ket tuk tita by not gon trong mot tsai ro kong lo. En hung din chow qua su ton bao tuk dung lai nam o koan kok ket lu. Kong ko kan kon nuoi fi duamo hoi soi noak mat kio luoi len bung mot kach nong nok, ham doine cam tang and hung cheek voi hut chan kong kong lo voi duong kin bang ca vong te nuoi lan soang tan de loi. Song tak bat len, va mot tiang gam xe tok dai jung bang len. Luke hut ma qui du nut chung ca noak bien lan sin men. Quan treo kio but 210 ka Thursday ra koi tran doi chi trong von ben 30 foot non engui. Dong thok bac qua thit va mau troi to qua he thong ong dan, by fan loi boi and hung komai vo han va tong tang veo ham nguk bang jia m60 du si, en han, gon, chuan zak va kong ko mobiku ho nao cho su thuang sat. 210 sin mang by tuak do chi trong doi john ban wong kan mot tach tsa fi, mot suc man thong tri keen bat cuai. Chung kien kung fi min no vi so high. Then hung, con ac Thursday tsong engip nai van by Troy Buk boi and hung xiang zich kwa lutlo. Han gach dan bat chin la chik ro mom duwe not non con nuoi nut chung ton bo daijiong. Moi du lu ton sat du doak trian truck teep ve ko quan jiam sat, hut lo mot tan latra gia bang gia san, bat sai kich ko la ban on tu cho gwin kai thok. Nguengip o ky ngwin nai de tien hoa ton mot tro choi kaneo de and get tho, noi long tam vo de qua mai mak phi lin tuc loan lok qua and hung ki qua hep qua su sin tun va bao tun sin tai. But if the high-tech precision of the mackerel fleets represents the cold, calculating mind of modern fishing, the frozen nightmares of the Bering Sea represent its brutally physical, blood-soaked beating heart. Forget the sterile screens and automated vacuum pumps for a moment, and transport yourself to a place where the ocean actively tries to murder you with every crashing wave. The Bering Sea is not a body of water, it is a chaotic, freezing hellscape that serves as the battleground for one of the most perilous and lucrative industries on the planet, crab fishing. When you sit down at a high-end seafood restaurant, cracking open a perfectly steamed king crab leg and dipping that sweet, tender meat into melted butter, you are completely shielded from the sheer terror required to bring it to your plate. You are tasting a luxury that was paid for in severed fingers, shattered spines, and men swallowed whole by the pitch-black abyss. Out here, nature has not yet been entirely subdued by algorithms, she fights back with a primal, terrifying fury. Picture a steel vessel violently pitching and rolling at unimaginable angles in the dead of the Alaskan winter. The sun is a myth, replaced by an eternal, biting darkness and sideways sleet that turns every exposed surface into a deadly sheet of ice. The crew, running on a toxic cocktail of adrenaline, caffeine, and absolute desperation, hasn't slept in 3 days. They are out here hunting for underwater gold, but this is a gold rush where a single misstep means an agonizing death. The machinery they operate is archaic and unforgiving. We are talking about hydraulic launchers and massive steel cages, crab pots weighing up to 1,000 pounds when fully loaded, swinging wildly in the gale force winds above the deck. To navigate this deck is to dance with a giant, iron pendulum of death. It requires a raw, almost primitive human endurance that borders on insanity. The men on these decks are not mere fishermen, they are gladiators thrown into an arena of sub-zero water and crushing pressure. When a 40-foot rogue wave slams into the side of the boat, the entire vessel shudders like a dying animal. The freezing spray instantly coats the rigging in heavy ice, threatening to capsize the ship under its sheer weight. The crew must grab sledgehammers and brutally beat the ice off the rails, fighting exhaustion while suspended over water so cold it will stop a human heart in less than 3 minutes. There is no romance here, no poetic communion with the sea. It is a grueling, mechanical war of attrition. When the pots are finally hauled up from the murky depths, bursting with a writhing mass of red and golden armor, the smell of diesel smoke mixes with the sharp, metallic tang of the freezing ocean. The crabs are violently sorted, the keepers dumped into the holding tanks, and the undersized ones tossed back into the churning foam. It is an industry built on the absolute breaking point of human physiology. These men mortgage their bodies, trading torn rotator cuffs, crushed limbs, and deep-seated psychological trauma for a massive payday. Yet, even in this raw, seemingly untamed environment, the shadow of industrialization looms large. Just like the mackerel fleets, these boats are racing against a ruthlessly ticking clock and unforgiving government quotas. The season is brutally short, sometimes lasting only a matter of days. It is a mad, frantic dash to strip the seafloor of its most prized scavengers before the quota is hit or the ice descends to crush the fleet. This is the horrifying paradox of the Bering Sea. We push human beings to the very edge of mortality, battling the most fearsome forces of nature, all to satisfy the insatiable, gluttonous demand of a modern world that views the ocean's bounty not as a miracle, but as an endless, entitled commodity. While the Bering Sea claims the lives of those foolish enough to brave its surface, a far more sinister and invisible annihilation is unfolding deep beneath the waves, far from any human eyes. Welcome to the era of the megatrawlers, the true apex predators of the modern ocean. If you want to understand the sheer, terrifying scale of our assault on the marine ecosystem, you have to look at these floating slaughterhouses. These are not fishing boats, they are massive, mobile industrial cities made of iron and greed, stretching the length of football fields. They do not merely catch fish, they devour entire ecosystems, leaving behind a barren, pulverized wasteland. When we talk about bottom trawling, we need to strip away the clinical terminology and call it what it actually is: underwater clear-cutting. Imagine dragging a heavy iron net, weighed down by massive steel doors and thick metal chains, across a pristine, ancient rainforest. Imagine that net ripping up thousands of centuries-old trees, crushing every living creature in its path, just to catch a specific type of bird. That is exactly what we are doing to the ocean floor. These monstrous nets, sometimes wide enough to swallow the Statue of Liberty whole, are ruthlessly dragged across the seabed. They gouge deep trenches into the earth, pulverizing ancient coral reefs that took millennia to grow, crushing delicate sponge gardens, and annihilating the fragile habitats that serve as the nurseries for countless marine species. The ocean floor, once a vibrant, complex tapestry of life, is reduced to a flattened, muddy parking lot. The sheer indiscriminate violence of this method is staggering. The trawler does not care what it kills. Everything that cannot outswim the gaping maw of the net is swallowed. And this brings us to the most heartbreaking and infuriating word in the entire commercial fishing lexicon: bycatch. Bycatch is the industry's sterile, sanitized euphemism for mass murder. For every ton of target fish these megaships haul in, an unimaginable quantity of collateral damage is dragged up with them. We are talking about ancient sea turtles, majestic manta rays, thousands of sharks, and highly intelligent dolphins. They are crushed under the weight of the catch, drowned in the suffocating darkness of the net, or suffer explosive decompression as they are violently ripped from the depths. When the gargantuan net is finally hauled onto the deck and unzipped, an avalanche of dead and dying marine life cascades onto the cold steel. The crew, working alongside automated sorting belts, frantically sift through the carnage. The valuable target species are funneled below deck, while the trash, the lifeless bodies of some of the ocean's most magnificent creatures, is callously bulldozed over the side, tossed back into the sea like defective factory parts on an assembly line. It is a senseless, monumental waste of life that would spark global riots if it were happening on land. Below the deck of these floating leviathans, the true industrial nightmare takes shape. The fish that make the cut do not see a dock until they are already ready for the supermarket freezer. They are dropped into a subterranean processing plant that runs 24 hours a day. Conveyor belts whisk the still-twitching bodies through a gauntlet of automated blades. Machines decapitate, gut, and fillet with a terrifying, mechanical precision. Blood and offal are continuously flushed out of a pipe in the side of the ship, leaving a miles-long red slick in the vessel's wake, a feeding ground for opportunistic scavengers. Within hours, the fish are flash-frozen into solid, uniform blocks and stacked in cavernous, sub-zero cargo holds. These ships can stay at sea for months at a time, continuously raping the ocean, transferring their frozen cargo to massive refrigerated transport vessels, and refueling without ever touching a port. They are a manifestation of human gluttony unchecked by borders or morality. We are systematically hunting the ocean to extinction, employing weapons of mass destruction against ecosystems that cannot fight back, all to ensure that fish sticks remain cheap and abundant in the frozen aisle of your local grocery store. It is a silent apocalypse, executed with terrifying efficiency, slowly turning the vibrant blue heart of our planet into a silent, empty tomb. As the wild oceans are strip-mined into a barren wasteland, human ingenuity has conjured a deeply unsettling solution to keep the supply lines running, dragging the horrors of factory farming into the aquatic realm. They call it aquaculture, a term carefully crafted by public relations firms to evoke images of sustainable harmony and nurturing cultivation. They want you to believe that we are transitioning from hunter-gatherers to responsible aquatic farmers, sparing the wild oceans while feeding the world. Do not be deceived by this greenwashed fantasy. Industrial fish farming is nothing more than the wet, suffocating equivalent of a land-based factory farm, a concentrated animal feeding operation submerged in the sea. Let us take a hard, unfiltered look at the Atlantic salmon industry, the poster child for this dystopian illusion. When you buy a perfect, unnaturally pink fillet of salmon at the store, you are not buying a creature of the wild. You are buying a genetically engineered, chemically treated product of a floating purgatory. Imagine millions of fish, creatures born with an innate, evolutionary drive to migrate thousands of miles across vast, freezing oceans, crammed by the tens of thousands into tightly enclosed circular pens just off the coast. The water inside these cages is a thick, cloudy soup of uneaten chemical feed, concentrated fish feces, and overwhelming despair. The overcrowding is so severe that the fish constantly rub against one another, their fins fraying, their snouts battered and bloody from colliding with the unforgiving mesh of their prison. This claustrophobic nightmare is an absolute breeding ground for disease. In these stagnant, feces-choked waters, pathogens mutate and spread like wildfire. To prevent the entire crop from dying before harvest, the industry relies on a massive, terrifying arsenal of pharmaceuticals. Antibiotics are dumped into the feed by the ton, creating an underwater toxic soup that permeates the surrounding wild ecosystem and contributes to the global crisis of antibiotic resistance. But the most grotesque horror of the salmon farms is the sea louse. These parasitic crustaceans thrive in the crowded pens, latching onto the helpless salmon and literally eating them alive. They graze on the skin, muscle, and blood of the fish, causing gaping, open wounds that expose the bone. The industry's response? Pumping neurotoxins into the water, or brutally scrubbing the fish through mechanized delousing machines that cause unimaginable stress and mortality. And the deception runs even deeper. A wild salmon gets its beautiful, rich pink color naturally from its diet of wild crustaceans and krill. These farmed abominations, fed a gray, processed pellet of soy, poultry fat, and ground-up wild fish, would naturally have flesh the color of pale, unappetizing putty. So, the industry artificially dyes them. They feed the fish a synthetic chemical called astaxanthin, utilizing a literal color chart, the salmofan, so supermarkets can choose the exact, vibrant shade of pink they want to sell you. It is a cosmetic lie designed to mask a sickening reality. Furthermore, the very premise that fish farming saves wild fish is a catastrophic mathematical fallacy. These farmed salmon are carnivorous. To produce 1 pound of farmed salmon, the industry must harvest several pounds of wild forage fish, like anchovies, sardines, and herring, from the open ocean. We are sending massive fleets to vacuum up the absolute foundation of the marine food web, starving wild penguins, whales, and seabirds, just to grind those fish into pellets to feed captive salmon. We are not saving the ocean, we are simply cannibalizing its base to produce a luxury protein for the wealthy global north. Beneath these megafarms, the ocean floor becomes an ecological dead zone. The sheer volume of toxic waste raining down from the pens suffocates all benthic life, leaving a rotting, barren wasteland in its wake. Industrial aquaculture is not a step toward a sustainable future, it is the ultimate expression of our hubris. We have taken wild, majestic predators and reduced them to bloated, diseased commodities, turning the coastal waters of our planet into toxic, floating feedlots. These enclosed aquatic purgatories are merely a desperate band-aid on a gaping wound, offering a terrifying glimpse into a future where the wild, untamed pulse of the ocean has been entirely silenced. We have arrived at the precipice of an ecological endgame, and the tragedy is that most of the world is completely blind to the freefall. We look out at the vast, shimmering expanse of the blue horizon and mistake its immense surface for an infinite depth of resources. But the ocean is bleeding out. We are witnessing the systematic dismantling of a life support system that has sustained this planet for billions of years, driven by an economic machine that recognizes no limits and respects no boundaries. The mackerel fleets with their vacuum pumps, the frozen killing fields of the Bering Sea, the apocalyptic devastation of the megatrawlers, and the diseased, artificial cages of aquaculture, they are all interconnected cogs in a single, terrifying mechanism of extraction. We have declared a shadow war against the ocean, and we are winning with a devastating, fatal efficiency. What happens when the nets come up empty? This is not some distant, dystopian science fiction scenario, it is a mathematical certainty if we do not break the chains of this industrial madness. We are rapidly approaching the tipping point where the complex, delicate web of marine life collapses in on itself. When the apex predators are hunted to extinction, the reefs are pulverized into dust, and the forage fish are ground into artificial feed, the ocean will not just become quiet, it will die. And if the ocean dies, we die. It provides the very oxygen we breathe and regulates the climate that allows our civilization to exist. Yet, we treat it like an endless pantry and an infinite sewer. We have allowed the cold logic of profit, algorithms, and quarterly earnings to completely sever our sacred, ancestral connection to the sea. The fish on your plate is no longer a gift from nature, it is a heavily subsidized, blood-soaked product of ecological warfare. But despair without action is just another form of surrender. The purpose of dragging you through this dark, uncomfortable reality is not to leave you paralyzed, but to wake you up. The industrialization of the ocean relies entirely on your ignorance. It thrives in the shadows, hidden beneath the waves and concealed behind clever marketing and picturesque seafood packaging. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the world you want to live in. We must demand transparency, reject the products of this devastating mega-industry, and force our governments to dismantle the subsidies that fund the destruction of our own planet. The time for willful blindness has passed. This is the grim reality of our blue planet, a reality that demands to be seen, acknowledged, and fiercely opposed. We are the last generation with the power to stop the gears of this devastating machine before the ocean is reduced to a barren, toxic wasteland. Thank you for walking through this abyss with us. If this journey has shattered your illusions and ignited a fire within you, do not let it burn out in silence. Share this truth, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring the notification bell to stand with at Mluvyong04 as we continue to tear away the deceptive veils of our modern world. The ocean cannot speak for itself, so it is up to us to roar in its defense. Until next time, keep your eyes open, and never stop questioning the true cost of everything you consume. The merciless industrialization of our oceans represents one of the most profound ecological tragedies of our time. From the frozen, perilous battlegrounds of the Bering Sea where human lives are routinely traded for luxury crab, to the apocalyptic devastation wrought by megatrawlers that literally clear-cut ancient seabeds, we are systematically dismantling the Earth's most vital life support system. Even industrial aquaculture, aggressively marketed to us as a sustainable savior, is revealed to be a deceptive facade, a toxic, submerged factory farm that breeds disease and cannibalizes the very foundation of the marine food web. The chilling reality is that our insatiable global demand for cheap, abundant seafood has transformed a majestic natural ecosystem into an indiscriminate industrial slaughterhouse. We have operated for decades under the deadly illusion that the ocean is an infinite void, capable of endlessly absorbing our greed and magically replenishing its bounty. But the blue heart of our planet is bleeding out. This comprehensive devastation is not just an environmental issue, it is a direct and imminent threat to human survival, as the oceans regulate our global climate and provide the oxygen we breathe. Acknowledging this dark reality is the first crucial step toward reversing it. We can no longer afford to hide behind sanitized supermarket packaging and clever greenwashed marketing. The ecological endgame is approaching rapidly, and humanity must collectively pivot from unchecked, ruthless extraction to radical conservation before the vibrant, life-giving ocean is irreversibly reduced to a silent, empty abyss. The true cost of our consumption is rarely reflected on a price tag. The convenience and abundance of the modern world are largely subsidized by invisible ecological destruction and unseen human suffering. Our profound disconnect from the source of our food has allowed unsustainable, destructive industries to thrive in the shadows. When we lose our reverence for nature and reduce it to a mere mechanized commodity, we ultimately engineer our own destruction. Stop being a passive consumer. Start viewing every dollar you spend as a direct vote for the kind of world you want to inhabit. Before you purchase seafood, demand transparency, find out exactly where it came from, who caught it, and what methods were used. Shift your purchasing power away from industrially farmed or mass-trawled species. Opt for locally sourced, genuinely sustainably caught alternatives, or drastically reduce your seafood intake altogether. Look past the marketing labels, educate those around you, and support policies that ban destructive fishing practices. You hold the power to force industry change through your daily, conscious choices. If you had to make the choice today, would you be willing to completely give up your favorite seafood if it meant saving the oceans from collapse? Please take a moment to politely share your thoughts in the comments section below so we can all learn from each other's perspectives. If this video opened your eyes and you want to stand with us in exposing the truth, please subscribe to the channel. Your support gives us the tremendous motivation needed to keep creating deep, impactful content just like this.